Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm here with David A. Fields. Hello, David.
Oh, Maria Isabel, it's nice to see you again.
Yes, good to see you in 2024. Happy to be back. For those of you who have joined us before and those of you who are new, start typing in your questions. Any questions, comments that you have for us today, we're happy to address them. Part of what hopefully makes these sections valuable is we answer your questions in the most tactical and practical way we know. And that creates, and your comments, value for everyone who's watching and who leads a consulting practice.
And if it doesn't, it at least makes it sometimes fun for us. So yeah, throw in a question or two.
Every time fun for us.
It's Maria Isabel's first one back in 2024. So I think we should play Stump Maria Isabel.
Yes. All right. Okay. So Deidre, can you please show us the first question that we have for today? Oh, David, this one is directly addressed to you, so you're in the hot seat right away.
That's not fair. That's not Stump Maria Isabel. All right. You read it and I'll answer.
Your January 3rd article, the number one rule for a successful consulting firm, mentions take the extra time to listen in showing clients you care. Would you expand on this bullet from the article? Okay, David, can you elaborate?
Sure, I can do that.
Time to listen mean?
You know that all my articles start off as like 20,000 word articles, and I have to cut them down to 600, 700 words. So I'm happy to expand on all of it. That's a good question. And I like that article also. So yeah, let me give you a few examples on what it means to create time to listen. So for instance, when you jump on a project call of any sort, maybe it's an update or maybe it's a work session or some other scheduled call, there's a tendency as a consultant to maybe make a little small talk and then jump right into business. Right? This is what we're supposed to do today. Between that little bit of small talk and business, really inquire about your client. Then listen. What's going on with them? What about their business overall? What about the project overall? Give yourself a chance to listen before diving into business. Similarly, and we have this in another article, I'm sure, at the beginning of each call, start with a right side up inquiry. What would make this conversation or beginning of a meeting, what would make this meeting useful and helpful and valuable? And the more you can set your agenda aside, just like empty your mind of absolutely everything other than the person you're talking with, the better you'll be able to really key on what's going on with them. Are they upbeat and cheerful? Are they distracted? Are they aggravated? And then you can notice and comment. You can say, Maria Isabel, you're not your usual cheerful self. Of course you are, but we'll pretend. And I'm glad you're willing to share me how you really feel rather than trying to put on a mask. So, what's the pebble in your shoe this morning? Right? I'm showing you show you care. And not how can I help? What's going on with you, which is a little different. What do you think, Maria Isabel? Does fair? Does this help? Other suggestions?
Absolutely. And we often hear back, wait, but we all know why people are at a meeting. We probably set up an agenda beforehand. It's okay. Acknowledge that. Say, look, coming into today, we do have a full agenda. Even so, before we start, exactly what you said, David, what would make this, is our agenda what would make the meeting most valuable and useful today or not? So you can show that you are prepared and at the same time be a great listener. And that's the combination that you were going for in your article, David, if I understood that correctly.
Exactly. And it's almost, step beyond your project for a little bit. Be there for your client beyond just the project. That's my thinking. Now, if you have questions on that or follow up or suggestions, post them in the comments, and eventually they pop up and we get to see them.
And today it's Martin Luther King's Day.
Oh, that's right. It is.
A lot of folks are observing the date in the U.S. Right? Schools are out, and an important date. So you may watch us in replay. Even if you watch us in replay, we welcome your questions then.
And if you haven't had the opportunity to re-listen to the sermon he gave the day before his unfortunate assassination, which I listened to again this morning, that is worth listening to. Again, for so many reasons. And with that, we'll move on. Okay, Deidre, what do we have else on the docket? Okay, let's see. Mike says, I like your idea of surveying people about what they are wrestling with and what problems they have paid to solve in the past. That's exactly right, Mike. That's the real question at the end. However, how do you ask that question without it sounding like a sales pitch? Well, Marisabel, is this one going to stump you? how do you answer that question?
All right. Thank you, Mike, for the question. The real framing of your conversation, it's not in this question, I think, but in what you say before and after, and how you position your whole conversation. So if as you're doing your research, every time the person you're speaking with says, and we also paid for this, and you say, that's something that's right up our alley, or that's something we help firms with, you breach the realm, right? Out of the research realm, stepped into sales realm. So be neutral when you listen, be neutral when you conduct your research. That's what will tell folks that you're not on a sales call. It's also what will give you permission to ask the question, right? It's genuine research. What are you paying for? It's a good data point, and you can tell them, look, all we're looking for is additional points of reference. It also matters what you do after they answer the question, right? Even if they say, okay, here's an opportunity, can you help? It's important that you bring in the turn, right, David, what you've named the turn, which is framing and giving agency to have a separate conversation. Even if they say that conversation starts when this one ends today, it's okay. Have a line that marks your research and separates them from any other type of conversation you would have. David, what would you add to that?
I wouldn't add anything, but now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
So then you can yell at me later. Okay, so let's model for people what the intro might sound like. Okay, so I'll be the prospect you want to interview. Don't do the actual, so what have you paid for, but do the setup, because I think this setup, as you said, is so important.
Right. So I would say something like, David, thank you for agreeing to meet with me today in the slightly upside down request, as I'm looking to fine tune where our firm plays and what do we do, right? And part of our objective is to make sure we add the most value where it's most needed. So it will be helpful to learn what you're doing, where do you bring consultants in, and how do you work with them overall. Is that a fair objective for today, David?
Yeah, I think so. And that's a good setup. I might sometimes add, and I'm not going to, just to be clear, I'm not fishing for things to sell to you. Fair. Truthfully, honestly, that's not what today is about. And if you bring something up, I'm not going to turn around and go, oh, we do that, or come back to you in 3 weeks. Now, if we do offer it, maybe at some point I will let you know that. But that's really not what today's about. So I might provide a little bit of that reassurance also.
Fair. And a reminder throughout the conversation,
sure.
Right? Are you going to publish this data? Are you going to share it with others? All things people may ask. Would it be valuable for you to have access to the data? Is that what you're asking me, right?
Exactly. Awesome.
All right.
What do we have?
Question.
Let's see, Deidre. And again, by the way, if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't get that, or you have a follow-on question, please post it in the comments. All right, what is this one?
All right, this one's for you, David. Now,
okay.
I have a presentation coming up with about 40 people. What should I do to follow up, Mark? Thank you, Mark, for setting it up for David in such an easy and friendly way. David, go for it. Gosh. Mark has given you permission.
Okay, that actually gives me, and Deidre, to drive you crazy, I don't know if are we able to post a link to the book? If we are, I'd like to do that.
Yes, we
So,
are.
because that's going to be where the answer is. So, first of all, good on you for creating the opportunity and having 40 people that you're going to be presenting to. Ideally, those people are actually in your target market. In the guide to winning clients, which is just over this year, right here. So grab your copy, but not from my bookshelf. There is a detailed outline of how to follow up after a speech, and there's a downloadable bonus. So if you read the book, that tells you where to go, and you can get bonuses that really outline the whole process for how to follow up. But the basics are, first, obviously, make sure you have contact information, and then follow up within a few days, asking whether they have any questions about the presentation, because questions tend to come up afterwards, and any feedback. So it's a right side up follow up. It's providing value for them, not, hey, I wanted to follow up. Did you like what I said? Do you have work for me? That would be upside down. Okay, so you don't want to do that. But I'm going to suggest just go to the Irresistible Consultants Guide to Winning Clients. I think, Marie-Isabelle, you and I have had an assumption that most of the people who watch this have already read that book. And I think that was probably a bad assumption on our part. And so my new request coming out of this is, if you haven't already read the Irresistible Consultants Guide to Winning Clients, just grab a copy and read it. And you'll be really happy you did.
And thank you for putting the link in the comments. We can't see your name because somehow LinkedIn is masking it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for putting that in. See, Deidre, someone did our work for us, which is awesome. All right. Do we have another one? So that was easy. My answer to my question was, it's in the book. Deidre.
And David, if I may,
Yeah,
I think
please.
Part of kind of, for those of us who haven't read the book, right? Part of what brings it all together is your follow-up, much like you said, is about connection. It's about maintaining and transitioning that 1 to 40 connection into a 1-to-1 connection that can grow over time. That's basically what you're looking for. Carol, thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
And Happy New Year.
Excellent. All right. You've got 90 seconds. So Deidre, let's do one more. Let's see if we can do it in 90 seconds. I submitted my proposal for about $75,000 to the client. He responded, I think we're not on the same page. I was thinking about something about 25,000 for 7 to 10 days of effort. Oh my gosh. Then he asked me to work with a subordinate to try to come up with something closer to that. All right. 60 seconds or less, Marie-Isabelle.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, unfortunately, I think your client is right. You're not on the same page.
Yeah.
So having a conversation with a subordinate would also not help you in this situation, because you're not on the same page to start with. So 2 elements for you to consider in your discussion back with a client. 1, what is driving the thinking? Why are they focused on process, meaning days and time, rather than outcomes, and in what they get out of your effort? What's behind it? And sometimes you find there's a lot of fear or experience with other consultants. Let's not make assumptions or have a hypothesis. Be a good listener. Ask the question. What's driving the thinking? The second element is move that thinking back to value and ROI. So you're acknowledging, you're considering what the drivers are that you just learned about, and use that to bring that back out of hours and time and back into value. All right, David, that's a 60-ish second.
Yeah, we'll go for that. I think that's really fair. I think that's a good start. It's something almost everybody has run into, and learning how to navigate that sort of elegantly is important. And yes, we have hit our time. So thank you, either if you're here live, and Carol, we know you're here live, and if you're coming after, thank you for spending 15 minutes with us, which Marie-Isabelle and I really appreciate it. Don't go yet. If you don't have davidafields.com Monday Live on your calendar, put that in. It's a really easy way to get here on Mondays. And also submit questions. You see all these questions that come up. Some of them come up live, which is great. And then some of them people submit in advance. So just send questions to info@davidafields.com. If you're not connected to Maria Isabel on LinkedIn, connect to her. You should connect to her anyway because she's so lovely. And you can connect to me on LinkedIn if you're not connected with me. And finally, if there was a question about the articles, if you don't get those articles, then subscribe. For no other reason than the puns. You can count the puns every week. So thank you for being here. Maria Isabel, it was nice to see you again. All of you, thank you for joining us. Have a fabulous week. And remember, consulting's about them, your clients and your prospects. So give them value and give them kindness. And we will see you next week.
Happy 2024.